about you. Paimon felt like Catherine was acting weird when we met at the Sumeru's festival. And Dunyarzad.
It's a really long story. We shouldn't disturb her. Her consciousness is still weakened. Let's chat somewhere else. How about by the Traveler's favorite bench?
What's going on? Why are you two so excited to see me? Hasn't it only been a night?
It's actually been much longer than that.
Oh? Strange. Was I really asleep that long? No wonder I have such a headache.
Keep up! Ha! Keep up!
Let's talk about Dunyarzad first. It's such a relief that she's all right.
After we parted on the last day of the Sumeru's festival, I left the city and saw what the Traveler had described. Among the countless dreams, I found one that was growing fainter and fainter. This proved my suspicion. Once Dunyarzad could no longer bear the Akasha harvesting her dreams, her consciousness began to dissipate. But this also meant it escaped the Akasha's control. Such a small fragment of consciousness can't last for very long, though. It will return to its original dream, where both will gradually fade until they completely disappear. I used all the power I had to keep her dying dream alive as long as possible, but it still wouldn't have lasted for much longer if it hadn't been for you two breaking the samsara.
So it looks like we did manage to save Dunyarzad in the end. And not a moment too soon.
Huh? Why are you two smiling so happily? I thought you'd be so moved that you'd start crying. I need to spend more time observing human emotions.
Both are fine. Everyone reacts differently.
All right. You two must have a lot of other questions for me, right? After all, you saved my faithful believer.
At the Avidia forest, there was this incense that made the Traveler fall unconscious and dream of a huge tree and a red sky.
You also heard someone's voice, right? It said world and forget me.
Yeah, so you do know! We've been wanting to ask you what that was about, and if the red sky was related to Conria.
It seems like the Traveler established a connection to Irminsul. That was a message left by Greater Lord Rukkhadevata's residual consciousness in Irminsul. Perhaps her last memory before she died. As you two probably know, Greater Lord Rukkhadevata disappeared after the disaster in Conria. The timings of these events do line up, so your suspicions are reasonable.
A message from Greater Lord Rukkhadevata? We thought it was from the Scarlet King.
The Scarlet King? That god who died even longer ago? Some present-day desert dwellers still worship him. You probably just heard some of their conspiracies.
Okay, so what does the message mean?
I still haven't managed to decipher it. Even the Akasha isn't currently capable of doing that. Greater Lord Rukkhadevata's residual consciousness in Irminsul seems to be contaminated with something that has a very dangerous aura to it. Many devoted scholars go mad as soon as they connect their consciousness. I've warned the Academia about this many times, but people still keep falling victim to it. But I believe this is the key to saving Irminsul. That's why I've kept trying to decipher it.
So the tree in the vision was Irminsul? Oh, Tainari also said that Irminsul is sick. Is it because of the contaminated consciousness? But even if you can't figure out what that vision was all about, it seems like our search for you was all in vain.
The Traveler wasn't affected after coming in contact with that consciousness. I've never seen anyone like that. With you here, we may have a chance at deciphering it. No, we must decipher its secrets. I've already eliminated all other factors that might affect Irminsul. This is the only one left. This puzzle has life and death at stake. It could determine Irminsul's fate, as well as Tevat's. To be accurate, I'm using the Akasha as a medium to occupy Catherine's consciousness.
How did you do that? Poor Catherine. Does this mean you can also occupy other people's consciousnesses?
Theoretically, I can enter anyone's mind as long as they're wearing their Akasha terminal. The Akasha is the legacy of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata. As Lesser Lord Kusanali and the first Akasha terminal, my consciousness has always been linked to the Akasha. I've always respected my people's free will, so I've never actually occupied their consciousness. When necessary, I just borrow this bionic Snezhnayan puppet.
Hold on. Did we just learn some deep, dark secret? So Catherine is... No wonder Paimon felt something was off about her. What about your own body? Why do you need to borrow other people's? Don't you live in the sanctuary of Surasthana?
That story begins a long time ago. After Greater Lord Rukkhadevata disappeared, the sages found my newly born self and took me back to Sumeru. At that time, I was young and weak. The sages kept me in the sanctuary of Surasthana, ostensibly for the sake of protecting me. But I've hardly heard from them since. However, I do understand that they had hoped to find Greater Lord Rukkhadevata instead of me, a symbol of her passing.
So, the sages basically put their new Archon under house arrest? How dare they! Why don't you teach them a lesson, Nahida?
In some ways, they aren't wrong. Greater Lord Rukkhadevata was omniscient and omnipotent. Even after her death, the Akasha is still empowering this nation. And I'm still really far away from being able to call myself the God of Wisdom. Moreover, the Academia is also more proficient at governing this country.
Yeah, you got a lot of believers. Just look at the Sub-Zero's festival. Everyone who showed up truly loves you.
Thank you for the kind words. But I honestly don't need physical freedom as long as I can connect my consciousness to the Akasha. Trying to find a way to save Irminsul is my life's mission and top priority. I will work on that, and try to live up to being a deity in the meantime. Every once in a while, I will also take up the duties of the God of Wisdom and enlighten a lost soul here and there. Doing all that should be enough.